I gotta tell you, getting that thumbnail, that was a workout. My name is Abigail, and on this channel, I talk about books and things that I'm passionate about, and right now that happens to be my November wrap-up. Here are some quick stats before I send you into the reading everything except for one book. So of the 15 books that I read, 14 of them were nonfiction. 14 was fiction, one was nonfiction. Goodness gracious. And then we had a pretty okay reading month. We have 4 3 stars, 2 3.5 stars, and 9 4 stars. So that's pretty good. No 5 stars, no 2 stars. I call that a pretty good month. There were some that were like on the border of a 2.5, but I ended up rounding up to 3 because I rated them all on Goodreads to start and then put my data into Storygraph, but I digress. If I had rated them, I'm really notoriously bad with rating them in the moment or waiting until several weeks later to rate them all. So what I need to do is be better about critically analyzing books within a day or two so that I can properly give you a rating instead of going completely vibes based. But this is not a goals for 2026 video. This is a November wrap up. Let's get into it. I read 15 books and DNF'd 1. Let's talk about it. The very first book that I read in the month of November is The Deep by Amakatsu. Forgive me, I've got my iPad right here for my stats. I gave this one a 4 star. This was the very first book that I picked up in the month of November, and this one counted for my horror bingo. This was my water setting book. I enjoyed it quite a bit. If I had known, I've been aware of this book for years and years, probably since I want to say 2020 maybe. Let's see, this book was published in 2020, so probably about then. I've been aware of this book for years, and I feel like if I had known how much I would like it, I would have picked it up significantly sooner. The Deep by Amakatsu is about, it's horror, yes, but it is about a girl who goes on the Titanic. She is ultimately, obviously not dead from her experience on the Titanic, but something happened on the Titanic. And when she goes on the sister boat, the Britannic, she is thrust back into this sort of place where she's trying to recall what actually happened on the Titanic, and we kind of do a little dual timeline. And this book is not, it's not scary in the sense that like sleep with the lights on, but it's scary in the sense that it's a little unsettling. Originally when I went to buy this book in 2025, I was confusing it with Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, and so I thought that the two books were the same. I thought it was Killer Mermaids, which is Mira Grant, and I thought that it was going to be set on the Titanic, so I was combining the two concepts in my brain. So now knowing that they're separate, I'm glad that I separated them before I started reading them, because if I had read this book thinking it was Killer Mermaids on the Titanic, I would have been slightly disappointed, I think. So that is The Deep by Amakatsu. Again, I gave this one a 4 star. I think that this is perfect for anybody who likes historical fiction. I myself am not the hugest fan of historical fiction, but I have delved quite heavily into historical fiction, specifically in the horror genre this year. I've spent quite a bit of my time doing historical fiction horror, which is not something I ever thought that I would even partake in, let alone sometimes enjoy. So there you have it. Moving on to the second book that I read in the month of November. This is 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. And the premise of this is very simple. There is a list that our main character, Malcolm, curates for a blog about the 8 perfect murders, not the 8 perfect crimes, but the 8 perfect murders, not the 8 perfect books, but the 8 perfect murders. And in this is like the perfect way to get away with murder fictionally. So the 8 books that he writes about contain a crime that is so perfect that is unsolvable. Things like the alphabet murders, things like where you swapped you kill somebody for somebody and they kill somebody for you. And it has this in here. So you've got Red House, you've got Malice Afterthought, you've got the ABC Murders, you've got Double Indemnity, Strangers on a Train, The Drowner, Death Trap, and The Secret History by Donna Tartt. In all of these books, there is a crime that the character who committed it gets away with it because they are the 8 perfect murders, and that is the basis of this. Malcolm, like I said, he writes this blog, and suddenly people are committing these murders, and it's tying back to him because he wrote the blog. I gave this one 3 stars. As far as Peter Swanson goes, it's my favorite Peter Swanson that I've read, but that's not really like a high honor because I'm not a big fan of Peter Swanson. Okay, moving on. The next book that I read in the month of November is going to be First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I have had this book in my collection since February of 2025, so very long time. I finally just read it in the month of November. I think part of the reason that I was putting this off so very much is because everyone liked it and I was afraid that I wouldn't. I often like audio elements, so having this be a talk show was something that intrigued me, so I ended up listening to this on audio. Now, this book is about Lucy, who is a mechanic, and her daughter calls into this radio show. I think his name is Aiden. Is his name Aiden? Yes, Aiden Valentine has a radio show where he kind of listens to people complain about their love life. Well, Maya, Lucy's daughter, calls in and talks to Aiden, and next thing you know, Aiden, heartstrings, is trying to set Lucy up on dates. And I think that you can probably guess where this book goes. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I listened to it on audio. I'm glad I did, because while there wasn't like a super lot of audio elements, they definitely did have little clips like this right here. You can see that this was something that they had put in there, and it was on the audiobook itself as well, and most of the chapters did kind of end with something like that. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute. I gave this one a 4-star. I'm looking forward to the next one in this series, which is called it's called And Now Back to You, and that is going to come out in February of 2026. So I have something to look forward to, and this time, hopefully, I won't put it off so long. The next book that I read for the month of November is called He Sees You When You're Sleeping. This is a dark stalker romance, but make it Christmas. The white part on here glows in the dark, so that's really fun. I enjoy it. I do like a little dark romance. I do like a little stalker romance, so I had a pretty good time with this one. I would say this is a 3.5 star for me. It's not a perfect book. It definitely reminded me quite a fair bit of Lights Out, in the sense that, well, it reminded me a lot of Lights Out. But basically, we have our main character, Chloe, who is really sad because her whole family is dead. She is being watched by the firefighter who helped her the day of her accident, and he stands outside her window, but also she's like, I mean, let me make sure that it's not a spoiler. It might be a spoiler that there's like some like online content that he also subscribes to, and I don't know if that's a spoiler. I don't think so. I think that I knew that going into this, but maybe I didn't, and I hope I didn't just spoil anything for you. But if I did, I really do apologize. It's very good, and there's a second book, but I started the second book and read like a chapter of it, or maybe like a page, and I didn't continue. That's not to say that I won't. It's just to say that I wanted to move on from this. Sometimes I just crave a dark stalker romance, and that is exactly what I was craving when I picked this up. And then I very quickly pivoted because I have a very extensive TBR for the month of December, and I needed to get a jump on it, which led me to You Make It Feel Like Christmas by Tony Shiloh. This is a Christian romance. I didn't know that going in. It is a Christian romance. It doesn't focus too heavily on Christianity. Most of the references to religion that there are like thanking God, or what do I do, God, asking God for guidance kind of thing. But this book is about Star. All of her siblings have Christmas related names, so that's pretty interesting. And this one is basically, it is about her brother. There's an age gap, okay? It's an age gap, brother's best friend, but like Christian, and he owns a little Christmas shop because his mom passed away and left him the Christmas shop, and so he is running a Christmas shop that sells like Christmas ornaments and stuff, and so it's very Christmassy, very cute. They did hold hands, they did even kiss, so if it's definitely, there's no smut in this at all, but it's not bad. Like, when I say it's not bad, I extensively explain this in the video in which I read this for. I extensively explain that when I say it's not that bad, what I mean is, for someone who doesn't believe in God, for somebody who is triggered by religion, I don't feel like it is laid on thick, if that makes sense. I feel it is Christian enough to be called a Christian romance, but not Christian enough to deter someone from reading a sweet holiday romance. I gave You Make It Feel Like Christmas 3 stars. The next book that I read in the month of November is Phantasma by Kylie Smith. I had heard quite a bit about this. I have owned this book, I probably want to say most of this year, if not all of this year, and I finally got around to it in the month of November. I knew very little about this going into it. I knew that there was a sort of trials and challenges that were not quite Hunger Game like, but like there's different stages and different trials. This is about Ophelia, whose mother passes away and her sister kind of goes missing, and so she goes into her room and discovers that maybe her sister went to Phantasma. This is sort of hell adjacent, demonology adjacent, but there's like trials based on the 7 deadly sins, and it's like there's a bunch of people that go into the trials and there's only one winner, and I enjoyed it. It was fast-paced. It was just enough lore to keep me entertained, but not too much to send me on a path of not really understanding what's going on, if that makes sense. I liked it. I can't wait for the second one. I do own the second one. I've owned the second one for a while as well, but I have not read it yet, and I look forward to doing so probably in the year 2026. I did give Phantasma 4 stars. And the next book that I read in the month of November was Mate. I read this for a mood reading blog because I deserved it after October. Mate is the sequel to Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Bride is about a vampire and a werewolf, and this is about a hybrid, half human, half werewolf and a werewolf. In this one, Serena, our main character, is dealing with a lot. There's a lot going on in her personal life. There's a lot going on in her life that led us to the beginning of Bride, and that has only continued into Mate. So there's not much that I can say without spoiling Bride for you, so just know that it was a good time and you should definitely pick up Bride if you haven't already, and if you have, then definitely pick up Mate. I gave this one a 4 stars. The next book that I read in the month of November is Chosen Eternally. This is by Caroline Frank. Now, the issue that I had with this one is it was very convenient. Now, it is a very short book. It is a novella. I picked this one and the next 2 that I will talk about up in the bookstore in Tampa called Steamy Lit. It's a romance only bookstore. So all of these are romance. The next 3 that I'm going to talk about are romance. This one is about a witch who they finally confess their love for each other, her boyfriend or her friend at the time and her, and then something terrible happens, and it's sort of, there's like this part at the end where it's like a villain monologue, like cartoon villain monologue type thing. I gave this one a 3 stars. 3 stars feels a little generous. It should be about a 2.5, but Goodreads only lets you do 3 stars, and that's what I'm going off of right now. So 2.5 stars, 3 stars. It wasn't very good. If you look at the fact that it's a novella and it wrapped up probably as conveniently as one novella can, it's not that bad, but it just, when you compare it to the other novella that I have to share with you, it just doesn't measure up. I think that I would possibly pick up more from this author because the writing wasn't bad. It's just that it was so fast paced that you didn't have time for any plot, but it tried to pack so much plot into it, if that makes sense. The next book that I read in the month of November was Sacked and Slayed. This is by Aurelia Knight. This is a nasty, filthy Christmas dark stalker romance. I was in my dark stalker romance era, apparently. And it's another novella, super, super short, barely 100 pages, I believe. Yes, it is 96 pages. This is about a man who is watching a girl, and she is an elf in a Christmas like mall Santa thing, and he's always watching. And there's a scene with a candy cane, and read at your own discretion. This I gave a 4 stars. Oh, 3.5 stars too. So moving on to the only book that I DNF'd in the month of November, which really, if you think about it, is pretty damn good. I think this is the only book that I've hard DNF'd all year. There's several that I put down with the intent to eventually pick back up, but this was a hard DNF for me. The writing in Dangerously in Love by Aaliyah Dina is very, 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 it's very like choppy, and it's cringy, and like there's a couple scenes in this that just make me go like, the fuck am I reading right now? I did pick this up, all 3 of these, in the Steamy Lit bookstore in Tampa. This was unfortunately an autographed copy. I did support this book by purchasing it independently published from an independent bookstore, but it just didn't work for me, and I'm really sorry. But so in this scene, they're kissing, and the main male character says, "I spelled your name," and then she's like, "I only wish that my name had more letters," because her name is Ava. So the premise of this book is he's head of security, and she is his best friend's little sister, and there's an age gap, and as you can see, that's kind of a theme that with a lot of the books that I read, there ends up being a little bit of an age gap. And she has a stalker, and it's not him. I know, shocking. She has a stalker, and he's head of a security team, and well, maybe a security company, and he has made it his mission to keep her safe. And that does sound like a good time, which is ultimately why I picked this one up instead of the other 3 that I was shown by the bookseller. However, this didn't work for me. Also, my cat is sitting right here, so if the tripod moves, I'm sorry. I'm not going to disturb her slumber because she's very evil. But it didn't work for me, and that's okay. I didn't rate it. I just marked it as DNF. So moving on. The next book that I completed in the month of November is Inside the World of Big Brother, Behind the Mirror by Taryn Armstrong. I've talked about this in the mood reading blog that I did, but I will mention it one more time. This is a book by Taryn Armstrong, who is one of my favorite podcasters. He works for RGP, which is Rob Has a Podcast. Rob Has a Podcast is founded by Rob's sister Nina, one of the best players to never win the game of Survivor. And he started a network, podcasting network, where reality TV fans can talk about and listen to and just gush about their favorite reality TV shows. And one of my favorite reality TV shows is Big Brother. Taryn Armstrong has dedicated 10 of his years to podcasting about Big Brother, and he's dedicated his life to learning about Big Brother inadvertently. And this was a culmination of 10 years of this man's obsession. And while it didn't teach me anything new, I enjoyed it. I ended up pre-ordering this when this book came out, and I also found out that he had an audiobook that he was narrating, and because he's my favorite podcaster, I went ahead and picked up the audiobook as well. So what I did was I listened and turned the pages as he spoke. It was a really good time. I'm finding that I really enjoy doing that a lot more than I thought I did. So this was a perfect way to take in this media. This was ultimately about this is a perfect book for somebody who loves reality TV. This is a book by a reality TV nerd for a reality TV nerd, and I gave it 4 stars. There was, if I'm being critical, which I do have to be, there was basically the only thing that I really noticed that took me out of the story for like a half a second was the fact that it goes back and forth a little bit in timeline. But because I knew everything in this pretty much, it didn't detract that much. I just noticed it, if that makes sense. And moving on to the next book that I read in the month of November, I picked up 10 Things That Never Happened by Alexis Hall. This is about two guys. One of them is the owner, CEO of a company, and the other is a manager of a store, and that store is not performing well. And so he calls him in to London to discuss the store's performance, and it doesn't go well. Basically, he yells at him and fires him. He falls down in a shower, because it's like a shower furniture, like a tub shower stall store. He falls down into the shower and he gets a concussion, and the doctor says there may be memory issues that come from this. And he goes, oh dear, walks in, and our main character goes, who are you? And he takes that to mean that he definitely has memory issues when he was making a joke. And so it's like amnesia, but not really amnesia because it's not real. But it was so fun to me. It was so fun. I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't the best written book in the whole world, but I had a really good time with it. And I'm glad I picked it up in this month. I think that there was there was Christmas elements to this, so it wasn't like a hard left field book. So I'm glad that I picked it up now and not like, I don't know, February or something. So 10 Things That Never Happened by Alexis Hall, 3.5 stars. The next book that I read in the month of November was You Make It Feel Like Christmas, and this is by Sophie Sullivan. This is about Nick and our other main character, Maisie. They have a one-night stand, and neither one of them has gotten over the other, and they are forced to be together when her brother is engaged to his best friend, and they all meet up at his sister's Christmas tree farm. It is so Christmassy. It is so Hallmark. I didn't love this one as much as I was hoping to. What happened was I read the first half of it in a day, and then the second half took me a week to read. Ultimately, I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, but I definitely wish that I had more. But I digress. I think that I would probably pick up more by Sophie Sullivan if given the chance. For now, this sits at a 3-star. The next book that I read in the month of November was 9 Month Contract. This is a mountain matchmaking man novel. This is a hot mess. So him and his 3 brothers live on a mountain, and on that mountain they live alone because of reasons, okay? And their niece is a meddling kid who wants to meddle in their love lives. And when all 3 of the brothers, well, 4 of the brothers, their father passed away, he decides he wants to have a kid regardless of having a girlfriend, wife, nothing. So he decides he's gonna go and apply for getting a surrogate. And because not too many people want to give a baby to a single man, he ends up having a hard time, and she has a hard time because she wants to go to apply to be a surrogate, and apparently there's a weight limit, and there's like this whole, it's like kind of cartoony, kind of funny in a way, scene where she's going crazy about it. And so the niece that is meddling in all of the brothers' lives goes to town to post a looking for surrogate ad, literally bumps into her. She has her crazy monologue about how there shouldn't be a weight limit on surrogacy because she's healthy, she's tall, whatever the case is. And then the niece decides, yes, I have found the surrogate. So they set up a meeting and we go from there. The next book that I read in the month of November was the sequel. So remember, the 3 brothers live on a mountain with no women, and the niece is meddling in their lives. So in this one, he is in love and hate with Dakota. So this is about Calder and Dakota, and when they are forced to be in a hotel room villa in Mexico for a family wedding. Basically, well, the niece once again meddles in the lives of the uncles, and she forces the forced proximity and then continues to force them to be together inadvertently, and it is enemies to lovers, it is forced proximity, and I just love this series so much so that the very first book that I picked up in the month of December was the third book. You'll hear about that soon. The final book that I read in the month of November was Unwrap Me by Summer O'Toole. This is low plot, heavy smut. This is part of a Fox family crime syndicate that I've never read those books, but this one was basically a nasty fun time. So she wants to be bad. He has no problem being bad with her. And there's some not suitable for work accompaniments in the book. So I don't know, dude. I liked it. Like, sometimes you just need a low plot, high smut book, and this is exactly what I wanted. I originally pre-ordered this from a romance bookstore, but the books didn't arrive, so I canceled the pre-order and ended up getting it on Amazon. I'm glad that I did because I really, really, really wanted to read this book, and I'm glad I picked it up. There's not really much plot, so it's difficult to explain. So we have, she's just broken up with someone, and she wants to just be bad, and he just, there's like a light kink exploration with free use, but it's mostly just a very low plot, very high smut, very good time. I just tried to pick the books up and they fell, so, and it disturbed my cat. So that is all the books that I read in the month of November. I hope that you enjoyed this. I enjoyed most of what I read this month, so I'm going to call it a pretty good month. If you enjoyed this video, please remember that I post at least once a week, and if you hated it, there will be another video, maybe 2 videos next week.